I need you guys to make sure that I'm not losing my mind, that I'm not seeing things, because from my perspective, it looks like all the games the players are the most excited for, the ones that they're enjoying the most, the ones that they're talking about the most, the games that have been the most successful outside of a couple of outliers. I'm not saying that it's all of them, but
I know what it's going to say. They're all Eastern games. Yes. We all know this.
They're all coming from the East.
Yes.
Elden Ring, Pal World, Tears of the Kingdom, Armored Core 6, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, Black Myth Wukong, Space Marine 2, Marvel Rivals, Final Fantasy, and I already know that I'm going to enjoy Stellar Blade once it releases on PC.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that all Eastern games are great and all Western games are bad. No, there's...
Okay, he's right. But it's gotten so bad that I can't think of a game on top of my head that is Western, that is good. You know what I mean? It's actually kind of crazy.
There's a handful of good games in the West. Believe me, I put 400 hours into Baldur's Gate 3. But with that said, the list is very short on the Western side. And I think this is something that the vast majority of the industry doesn't want to discuss, especially games media, because, well, it means that they're losing relevance. Western games are losing relevance by extension. Western media then loses its relevance as well. There's been a cultural shift over the years where players are not being prioritized, but these Eastern studios are.
The difference between the Eastern studios and the Western studios is that Western studios, they care about politics and they care about adding in their opinions in every game. They want you to know that, like, it's so fucking annoying. Why can't they just make games? Why do they have to force their political agenda into their games and wokeness? Nobody fucking cares about that shit. Like, if it makes sense, then add wokeness into it. If it doesn't make sense, then just don't do it. If at any point someone will make a Black Panther game, then I'm not gonna expect the characters to be white. And I'm not gonna be offended if they're not. Just do things that make sense. And if it doesn't make sense to have white people in it, then don't do it. And if it doesn't make sense to have black people in it, then don't do it. And if it doesn't make sense to have transgenders in it, then don't fucking do it. Let's take a good example. Let's take GTA for an example. GTA 6. Now, GTA 6 is a game that is very free to do whatever it wants. In GTA 6, you can put anything in the game, anything you want, and it wouldn't get as much of a backlash. It's very free to do what it wants. But then you go to a game like, I don't know, like Concord. It's supposed to be like this new Overwatch. People don't want gender politics in Overwatch or Concord or Marvel Rivals. And this is the difference between Western and Eastern. That Westerns, they do that shit and they think that they're being woke and they're doing us a favor. But the Eastern companies, they don't give a shit. They don't put their political agendas in the games. They don't put their gender politics in the games. They don't put their opinions in the games. They don't say controversial shit online. They just make a good game. And that's it.
Are prioritizing those audiences, and as a result, because that cultural shift doesn't happen over there, well, they're taking advantage of a situation and they are skyrocketing in popularity. They're gaining more players, they're gaining more influence, and more importantly, they're gaining more money, which makes them a major threat to the rest of the industry. We're talking about heading towards a world that has a heck of a lot more Black Myths and Marvel Rivals and a lot less Dragon Age the Veilguard and Conquest.
I mean, a threat? I wouldn't say that they're a threat. Just make good games. Just make good games and people will fucking buy it. I know making games are super hard, and I don't know half of it. I don't know a percentage of it. I don't care how difficult your job is. Just make it so I can pay for it and so I can have a good time. That's your job. And you guys probably don't give a shit what my work is about. We all have our own lives. We're all the main character in our own lives. And that's just how it is.
That's not good for a lot of people in this industry, I'll tell you that right now, because, well, as these Eastern studios continue to be successful, as they're able to produce way more games than a lot of these Western studios because of the financial position many of them are in, well, their investors are going to turn around and ask them, why are you doing that? They're going to say, well, we can't. But before we get into that...
They can. Oh, they can. I can't keep rambling on. We are 2 minutes in.
Monster Hunter Wilds is
Sorry.
right around the corner, and with it is coming some of the craziest PC specs I've ever seen required. So you guys could use today's sponsor, Starforge. I've been loving my new PC from Starforge Systems. It's incredibly quiet, sleek, and lightning fast. It's a way better build than I could do myself.
Now featuring 5080 and 5090 GPUs.
And they've got something for everyone. They got Horizon PCs, which are great for your everyday gamer, much more affordable, and just great for a first-time user or even experienced.
I probably wouldn't want the dick on my CPU here, but otherwise it looks great. But I don't want a green space stick.
Notch. Go into their Navigator series that are packed with next-gen components, giving you some truly high-end performance. But if you're a content creator or an enthusiast like me, well, their Voyager series has everything that you're going to need. Starforge has a ton of incredible customization options with PCs inspired by popular games like Terraria and old-school RuneScape, anime like FreeRen, and even their own original designs.
Crazy.
And if you really want to customize, they got limited run designs, plate lights, desk mats, and even posters to match your setup. Every PC is hand-built.
They know what we want. Good for them.
In Austin with premium quality and attention to detail, plus a 2-year parts and labor warranty. Starforge Systems, premium quality, white glove service, and all of it at an
They're doing well. You know, if I was rich, I would just buy from them.
Accessible price
Easy.
point. Follow the link in the pinned comment or the description below and check out Starforge Systems and find the PC of your dreams. There is a clear divide between games made in the East and those made in the West, and I found myself enjoying more Eastern games more and more, and I know that I'm not alone. You don't have to look that hard to see the difference. Eastern games are thriving while Western titles are drowning in complaints, controversy, and creative stagnation. These studios and publishers get it. Culturally, they get it. They understand.
Okay, so it might also have to do with the fact that there are a lot of Western gaming companies that have been in the game for a long time. At some point, companies tend to go in the wrong direction and betray the customers. That's just how it is. That's usually how it goes. You can look at a lot of companies, and that's usually how it is. You can look at streaming services. They usually start out great, and then they become worse and worse and worse. I'm rambling again. We're 3 minutes in, but oh my god. What was the worst year for gaming? 2022, 2023? And then 2024 was like a mixed bag of super good games and super bad games, right? And now, this year, 2025, such good games. I love it. And not just good games, we're talking good games, and they're coming out this year. Like, yes, finally.
Understand what players want, and they're delivering it without compromise. I put up Monster Hunter, Black Myth Wukong, Final Fantasy 16.
Sorry. Although, I tried Monster Hunter Wilds, and the spec requirements are off the fucking chain. Like, there's no way my computer's going to be able to do it.
16, and it feels like peak is the only thing that they care about. They want you to experience something that is unforgettable. They want you to be blown away by the scale, spectacle, and raw excitement. I'm tracking down monsters, and I'm fighting them and crafting armor out of their bones in Monster Hunter. Their developers painstakingly research ecology to make sure that they can create a realistic ecosystem that feels alive, while at the exact same time, they're not making that their only priority. They're also delivering stylized combat that you'd only find in anime. I'm walking through China's cultural history, experiencing one of the oldest stories ever told, and fighting literal gods in Black Myth Wukong.
That's a cool
I'm
idea.
experiencing political upheaval and a world-ending crisis in Final Fantasy 16, but every moment builds to something bigger. The stakes, the music, the sheer unrelenting spectacle. I go from trying to find the truth to fighting a dragon in space that is about to unleash a laser to destroy the world. Then we look at games like Ninja Gaiden, Resident Evil, Stellar Blade, an entire industry of gacha juggernauts unapologetically delivering cool, badass, and attractive characters. These studios are not afraid to give players what they want. Whether it's over-the-top action, ultra-stylized designs, or characters that are as powerful as they are attractive. Western games, well, they've been moving in the opposite direction. The androgynous, desaturated, corporate-safe designs that plague Western titles, nobody's asking for that.
I'm
certainly not the
non-binary.
players, certainly not women. I see countless 2B cosplayers, but You know, I haven't seen a single person willingly dressing up as Abby from The Last of Us Part 2, so I guess we might see some Concord cosplays this year. But you know, it's not just the aesthetics, it's the priorities. Eastern Studios are focusing on the player experience. It seems like the only thing they actually care about. They're not obsessing over realistic sweat physics in a first-person shooter. They're making sure that the controls feel incredible. They're not wasting time on irrelevant tech demos. They're refining gameplay mechanics to perfection.
Yes.
They aren't ballooning their budgets to insane proportions.
Thank
the
God
most
for that,
useless
man.
things. They aren't trying to be Hollywood. They're trying to be video games.
Yeah.
I've been replaying Armored Core 6, and it's one of the most...
Talk about Hollywood. Bungie used to include these celebrities into their trailers for Destiny 2. I hated that.
Most visually stunning games that I've played. But here's the thing. It's not chasing photorealism. It's designed in a way that tricks you to feel like it is. You're so immersed in the gameplay, so locked into the experience that you don't care about environmental destruction or ray trace reflections because the game is so damn good that you don't need those things. Then I go back to Western AAA games and...
Although Monster Hunter Wilds definitely needs those things. And it probably needs a 4090.
What do I get? A checklist simulator or a tutorial that assumes that I've never touched a controller before?
I'm non-binary!
What to feel. A game world that exists only to make a point, not to be explored. And their obsession with open world bloat, because why make a game feel big when you can make it look big? Western developers want to force you through a message. Eastern developers want you to lose yourself in the experience. They aren't holding your hands through a painfully self-important...
Bro, the Suicide Squad game? What the fuck were they thinking?
...important narrative filled with stiff, corporate safe writing. They're letting you engage with a world that feels...
Safe writing. Say that again. Safe writing. You mean like Veilguard? Safe writing. Safe space writing. Got it. Safe space. Well, it's a safe space that people die in.
Alive. Eastern games are just built different. That's why they are dominating, and that's why they're going to continue to dominate.
Western games used to be built the same way, but they've fallen off.
It's going to make it harder and harder for a lot of these Western studios to be able to stay relevant. Now, Japanese games being popular isn't anything new. In many ways, Japan is what built the foundation of modern gaming. If it wasn't for Nintendo dragging the industry out of the gutter in 1983, well, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation. But we're not just talking about Japan. It's China, it's Korea, and beyond. Apparently, nobody took note.
China is doing really well.
That 2024 featured an entire wave of Eastern studios stepping into the AAA space, shaking up the industry, and forcing Western studios to confront the reality that they're not the only game in town anymore. And I noticed this shift when I saw historically mobile studios start to step up into the AAA premium game space. Take Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. This was a game by Cygames, a studio known for gacha games like Grand Blue Fantasy and Shadowverse. Why would they suddenly decide to make a AAA full production, full-priced game unless they knew it was a smart investment, unless they saw an area of opportunity? Turns out they did, because Grand Blue Fantasy Relink sold 1 million copies in just 11 days, and it has still continued to sell, and the players loved it. Then it happened again with Stellar Blade. Shift Up, another gacha-focused studio, jumped into AAA gaming, and the result? Another massive success. A game that sold over 1 million copies. It's likely to outsell its PlayStation numbers entirely once it actually launches on PC. Modders are going to have a field day with this one. Then a first-time Chinese studio delivers a AAA cultural masterpiece.
First-time game. The studio had never made a game before. First game. Game of the year potential. Mind-blowing. Absolutely insane.
In Black Myth Wukong, a game that shattered Steam's concurrent player records and sold 20 million copies in 1 month. It was bold, visually stunning, deeply rooted in mythology, blending diverse storytelling techniques and cinematic cutscenes, and had exhilarating combat that just kept you hooked. Its tight linear progression and light yet meaningful customization stripped away any necessary bloat. It just offered a pure, content-rich experience that...
If there is such a thing as a perfect game, then Black Myth Wukong is that game. It is perfect. For what it is perfect.
Pulled you in and refused to let you go. And who could forget Pal World, allegedly made for under $7 million, reaching 25 million players with 15 million copies sold on Steam, a game that crystallized.
I tried Pal World. It's not for me. Like the first 2 hours playing, I just felt like, all right, so it's like Minecraft, but you have pals, and the progression was so painfully obvious. It was so painfully obvious that it was gonna be like, oh, now I'm gonna make a bigger house, and then I'm gonna get a better gun, and then I'm gonna get a bigger pal, and then I'm gonna get a bigger house, and that, yeah, yeah. I didn't like it, but I understand people who do.
Is just about everything players have been asking for, what they've wanted, the freedom that they've wanted. Finally, we saw the release of Marvel Rivals, storming onto the scene with stylized characters, great gameplay, killer.
I mean, if I want to play a game where I cut wood and mine minerals, I'm gonna play Minecraft, not Pal World. I'm sorry.
Performance, non-intrusive monetization, and overall just a fun experience for players that helped the game reach over 600,000 concurrent players on Steam, with over 20 million downloads across all platforms. With the success of these games, the shift is undeniable, and it's not slowing down. 2025 is already shaping up to be another massive year for Eastern developers. Monster Hunter Wilds is going to explode, potentially breaking over 1 million concurrent players.
I have concerns for this game. I tried the early release or whatever, or was it beta? I don't know. I tried it, and my PC could not handle it. So you need a top-notch PC. Otherwise you can't play it. Otherwise it looks so bad that you want to puke. So that's my concern.
It's on Steam. I could easily see it. I mean, Monster Hunter World quintupled engagement across the entire franchise, so there's no telling how far this new entry can go. Players are already excited for Phantom Blade Zero, Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, Light of Motrium, and Tides of Annihilation, all made by Chinese studios stepping up to steal the show. And after seeing all these successes and the engagement that I'm seeing from the players, how excited people are for some of these games that are coming out, I think that Eastern studios have figured out what Western gaming has refused to accept. That the layoffs, the cancellations, the flops aren't because gaming is dying. Players aren't leaving games, they're leaving Western games. They're seeing an industry that's in war with its own audience. They see the greed, the arrogance, and the creative bankruptcy, and they're stepping in to, well...
By the way, if you think this gameplay looks good, check out my video, Phantom Blade Zero, where I react to the trailer. It shocked me. It completely shocked me. I think I screamed at one point. Such a cool game. I'm definitely gonna play this one if my PC can handle it. I'm gonna have to buy a new PC.
Take what Western studios have abandoned. And I think that the industry is threatened by this, and they should be, to be honest with you. I mean, look at the way that games media reacted to some of these releases. Because while Stellar Blade reviewed relatively well, it wasn't without controversy. Heck, they actually had to write an article to tell everybody, why is Stellar Blade so controversial? Are attractive characters unrealistic? Female beauty standards in gaming need to evolve. I'm sorry, but...
Look, if female beauty standards is a problem in games, then you should fucking look at Instagram.
But saying that beauty standards need to evolve is like saying that gravity needs to be more inclusive. You can try to change reality all you want, but people will always be drawn to what they find appealing. That's it. And then came Black Myth Wukong, and that's what they absolutely lost it. Developers not responding to the accusations that they made up, not responding to their headquarters being vandalized because of the accusations they made, not answering questions.
Unfathomably based. So based.
About inclusivity in a game about a monkey. That's when it became painfully clear. The industry is...
Bro, I made a comment at one point where I said, like, inclusivity? This game is about a monkey. Do they want the game devs to include, like, tigers and turtles? And this guy replied to me, there are tigers and turtles in the game. Oh, shit. I don't know why I thought that was funny. Oh, God.
Terrified of these rising Korean and Chinese studios because they can't control them, so they attack them instead. The only controversy surrounding these games was fabricated by media outlets desperately trying to reinforce their own narrative and their own worldviews. And it became laughably obvious once reviews started rolling in for Black Myth Wukong, with multiple critics slamming the game for a lack of female characters and diversity, not realizing that women played a key role Act 3 and beyond. I brought this up before. I think I showed it off in one of my last videos, but it still blows my mind that Inverse would straight up call anyone who bought the game Chinese nationalists and anti-woke. Let that sink in. Look how detached from reality media has become. Fun action game, no political messaging, monkey with the big stick go bonk. Yeah, that's fascist. This is about an industry that is panicking. Western publishers and media have spent the last decade trying to dictate what players should want, and now it's backfiring. Eastern studios aren't arguing with their audience. They're just giving them what they want. Hell, I just saw that Marvel Rivals had planned to do mid-season rank resets. The players said no, and Marvel Rivals just said, oh, okay, that's fine. I think that's what a lot of the industry has gotten away from. Not what games should be about, not what games should be, but who games are for. Eastern studios, pretty much across the board, are just doing a better job at recognizing what players want and are giving it to them.
Finally.
That's what you need to do to succeed. A lot of Western developers and media are just so caught up in today's events and politics that they're forgetting that players are playing games to escape from that. Eastern games are thriving because they're not chasing trends or politics. They're chasing timeless experiences. They're crafting worlds that players want to revisit years from now. Not just ones that are going to give you Twitter engagement for a few weeks before fading into irrelevance. Just the topical nature of Western games is already a death sentence. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, I played Borderlands 3 a few years ago, and the entire time I was playing it, I was like, dude, nobody's going to remember any of these pop culture references, any of these cringe jokes, or anything like that, because it was just so modern day. It was so today for that game when it released, and I'm like, people aren't going to remember this stuff. I was thinking about Dragon Age the Veilguard. Do you think 20 years from now, somebody's going to pick up that game and go... it's about.
Yes. 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 People are definitely gonna do that. Imagine that. Somebody picks up Dragon Age Veilguard in like 10, 20 years. They're just like, what the fuck is this garbage? Fucking garbage. Okay, we gotta wrap this up, man. Oh my god.
What are they even talking about in there? Eastern studios have just been so much more consistent. They don't have any of that extra bullshit that's in there. We just see the normal complaints from them. I think that's another thing to think about as well. When you think about some of these Eastern studios, the vast majority of controversy that surrounds them is the normal stuff. Day one performance, patches, expansion content, microtransactions. I want to go back to those days, man. I'm getting sick and tired of talking about some of these issues with some of
expansions are fine. DLCs, even better.
They keep their politics and their opinions out of their games and out of the public eye, and they just focus on doing their job. They let their games do the talking instead. And oh man, their games are talking. You know, it's been a while since I've done a review. I need to do a review. I've been playing Armored Core 6 again.
Nice.
And it is insane how good that game is.
Yeah.
It's absurd how good that game is and how little spotlight it got. The players that loved it, they loved it. The players that don't, haven't played it yet. It's so beautiful, but they don't do anything like trying to make sure that I can see my reflection in the visor of an enemy mech or anything like that. They don't waste a bunch of time and money and resources on all these weird fidelity things that just aren't necessary for a game like that. They just make it tight controls, incredible gameplay, really good story.
True.
Like, it's one of the best stories that I've experienced in a game over the last few years, outside of Outliers, of course. There's some really good ones that are out there. But 90% of it was from text. Like, it was just a pop-up on screen and a voice, and that was it. No cutscenes or anything like that.
But it's FromSoft. They just give you a small pop-up about like one sentence or two. That's it. And then the game speaks for itself. It's like the only gaming company that gets away with that.
It wasn't necessary. They didn't need that because they just focused on it being pure gameplay. And man, it's so good. That's what players want. That's what these Eastern studios have been delivering. No nonsense, all gameplay. Give the players what they need. That's it. That's why they've been succeeding. And that's why some of these Western games have been failing. Because, you know, I think they got comfortable. They had a stranglehold on the industry. They had more money, more developers, more resources, more experience. But now you have some of these studios that are popping up in some of these other countries that aren't under their influence. A lot of them are really inexperienced, but they got the people to be able to do it, and they're learning pretty quick. Developer tools, the barrier to entry to make a video game is way lower than it's ever been before, and that's a major threat for some of these companies. These companies that forgot how to treat us like customers. And it makes me...
Good thing that he said customer, because we are customers. Good thing he said that.
I was wondering why Black Myth Wukong and Stellar Blade had this weird, like, anti-Asian, anti-Chinese rhetoric among games media in a lot of different circles. I mean, like, they had the one person that said, you know, if you bought the game or the people that made the game successful were Chinese nationalists and the anti-woke. The reason why they say that is because it's meant to sound evil. It's meant to be disparaging. These countries have a culture that's counter to theirs. They can't let that stand. But these studios aren't just a threat because they counter their culture. They're not just a threat because of the fact that, well, their games are delivering what players want. They're a threat because they have something that the rest of the industry is going to have a real hard time with.
Okay.
They can make games far cheaper and far faster than anybody else in the entire industry.
It is true.
That's
it is true. He's right. And like he said, he's been saying that the entire time. They don't bullshit with anything. They focus on the things that are the most important. And that's how they dish out the games.
Big problem. Because as they create more games and they overwhelm the rest of the industry, well, the rest of the industry is not going to be competing with them. They're going to be swallowed by them. Now, the rise of Eastern studios isn't just a trend. It's a foundational shift in the industry. What we're seeing right now isn't just one or two breakout hits. It's an entire new wave of studios that's stepping out onto the global stage. And the scary part is, for Western developers, they're only going to get better. Most of these companies are still in their infancy, yet they're already disrupting the market. Game Science, as an example, the developers of Black Myth Wukong, had never made a AAA game before, yet they produced a title that sold 20 million copies for only $43 million. Given the average salaries of shift-up employees, Stellar Blade cost an estimate between $40 to $50 million. Now imagine what these studios can do once they gain some more experience, more funding, and a deeper understanding of the global market. Unlike many of these Western AAA studios, which have been floundering despite decades of experience, these new developers aren't starting with bad habits. They're building up from a lean, focused, and player-driven approach. One of the biggest advantages for a lot of these Eastern studios is just cost efficiency. The Western gaming industry is drowning in ballooning development costs, with AAA games exceeding $200 to $500 million budgets.
Absolutely
We're seeing longer
crazy
development cycles, higher failure rates, and lower margins, yet somehow these guys keep spending and inflating their budgets even more instead of actually refining their gameplay. In contrast, Eastern studios are operating on a fraction of the cost, yet delivering polished, high-quality games that rival or surpass that of their Western counterparts. And I think the reasons for this are pretty straightforward. They have a focused design philosophy. Eastern studios are prioritizing gameplay first rather than overproduced cinematics and unnecessary bloat. Their teams are more efficient. They're not building massive bloated development teams that take years to onboard and years to manage. Their production is more disciplined. Without the need for endless games as a service monetization models, they're just focused on delivering a complete experience. And what's really scary for a lot of these Western publishers is that not only are these Eastern studios going to get better at their jobs, they're going to get more efficient over time. There's no denying that in some of these Eastern countries that they have lax labor laws that allow for faster, more demanding work cycles. It's not a good thing from an ethical standpoint, but it's an advantage when it comes to pure production output. Beyond that, something else that works to their favor is that workplace culture in many of these Eastern studios rejects the Western industry's obsession with toxic positivity. The idea that all work must be praised, all criticism must be soft, and nobody can ever be called out for doing a bad job because in Eastern studios, criticism is direct and result-driven. If you mess up, you're told directly. There's no hand-holding, no excuses, no performative social media activism. Employees are expected to improve. Bad work doesn't just get a pass because it aligns with corporate social agendas. The game is always the priority.
And that's healthy, by the way. It's healthy to take responsibility and to get shit for being shit. It's just healthy. Honestly.
Personal beliefs and cultural narratives don't override the responsibility to deliver a great product. Compare this to the West, where some developers are spending more time policing their communities rather than making better games. You've got studios that are hiring based on ideological alignment rather than skill, fearful of offending social media mobs, and constantly engaging in PR firefighting rather than...
I don't think some of these companies realize when they're being woke and when they're putting political agendas into their games, they aren't actually doing what the people want. I know there's a loud minority that are attacking these companies, and these people want to adhere to them. But those people are not even going to play the games. Those people are not even going to play the games. They're not even going to buy the games. These gaming companies have to get this into their brain, that the people that are being loud, that are being whiny, that are being bitchy, those people weren't even going to buy the game in the first place. They're just nagging for no reason. The people that are going to buy the games are you and me.
Focusing on making something great. Eastern developers don't have that problem. There's another huge advantage that these Chinese studios have in particular, and it's access to one of the largest gaming markets on the planet, while Western studios don't. Many Western AAA games don't release in China due to strict censorship laws or a lack of appeal to Chinese audiences. That artificially handicaps Western studios, while Chinese studios have no problem releasing their games both domestically and internationally. Look at Black Myth Wukong. 75% of its sales came from China alone, yet it still pulled in millions of Western players. Now imagine what happens when a Chinese studio makes a game that's even better, with higher global appeal, and also at less than half of the development cost of a Western AAA game. That's where things get really dangerous for Western developers. These developers aren't just a threat because they're making games that players want. They're a threat because they're only going to get better at it. They're going to get more experience. They're going to get more funding. They're going to learn from their mistakes. They're going to make games faster, and they're going to make them cheaper. Western studios can barely keep up as is, and they're already at a financial disadvantage. The fact that Eastern studios can produce high-quality games at a fraction of the cost and twice as fast is likely going to create an entire industry shakeup. If a Western studio needs $300 million in 6 years to make a game, but an Eastern studio can do it for $50 million and in half the time.
It already has. It's shaken up the entire industry. And we can see it because we're seeing trailers like almost daily now of new games that are either from the East or West, doesn't really matter, but they're all kind of the same. They're focusing on beautiful characters, like gorgeous, stunning characters, both male and female, of course. Beautiful characters. And they're focusing on snappy, fast, beautiful gameplay. And cutscenes. Amazing cutscenes. Like cutscenes you've never seen before. We're seeing this year. And there are a lot of games coming out this year that are they're gonna be absolutely stunning.
Who do you think is gonna win in the long run? While many may see this as spelling doom for the industry as we know it, I see it as a rebirth and potentially the start of something greater. Bigger Western studios will be forced to do better, to be better. They'll have to be smarter with their spending.
Competition is really good. Competition is so important. Look at streaming services. Are they competing with each other? No. Fuck no. If we could see competition between these, then we wouldn't be seeing prices going up all the time. And ads being in premium packs. And
focus on the right things, and going back to paying attention to the audience and meeting the needs that aren't met. Sure, some studios are going to get caught in the undertow, but many studios are going to restructure and reprioritize, and with the rise of some of these Eastern studios, it's going to come new perspectives on how to make games, how to create new genres, and how to create customer satisfaction. You know, one of the things I brought up in my review of Black Myth Wukong was how appreciative I was of being able to learn more about Chinese culture. A lot of people outside of China have little to no context on its legends, history, and mythology. Many Western audiences just have a surface level understanding at best. Vague concepts like the Great Wall, dynasties, and martial arts. Games have the power to change that. Black Myth Wukong wasn't just a game, it was a bridge. It introduced millions of players to a rich cultural history that they may have not have explored otherwise. And this is where things get really interesting for me, because while exposure to new cultures through art can be a beautiful thing, China's gaming industry isn't just any industry. It operates under the watchful eye of its government. And that comes with baggage. No references to Taiwan, Tibet, Tiananmen Square, no sensitive religious or political imagery, no blood, suggestive themes, or excessive brutality. This isn't just speculation. Western companies have already censored themselves to stay in the Chinese market. Blizzard suspended a Hearthstone player for supporting the Hong Kong protests. Hollywood studios regularly edit their films to appease Chinese censorship. NBA teams scrambled to apologize after comments supporting Hong Kong went viral. Hell, there's a ton of things that you can't even say in Marvel Rivals in-game chat. I know a lot of people are going to have concerns about China's growing influence in the gaming industry. We're all aware of Chinese censorship, propaganda, and soft power strategies, so it's understandable to wonder whether gaming is going to face that same fate. But call me an idealist, I think that China's success in gaming might actually lead to a crack in that armor. We're already starting to see signs of
No.
that shift because Black Myth.
No, it's not gonna crack any armor at all. China has had a tight grip on the gaming industry for a long time, just behind the curtains, like with Blizzard and Activision, indirectly influencing it to the point where people are getting banned, disqualified from competitions, etc. This is not gonna make a bump. Nothing. There's still gonna be censorships. There's not gonna be any blood in their games. Nothing. Like maybe blood, but I don't even think that's gonna happen. So no, I don't think anything's gonna change in that regard.
With Wukong, while the game was toned down in China, in its Western release, it still featured intense action, blood effects, and darker themes. This suggests that Chinese developers, when targeting a global market, are prioritizing Western audiences' expectations over domestic restrictions. If they want games to sell worldwide...
All right. Okay, I see what I see what it means. I see what it means. Yes, he's right. Eastern gaming companies, if they want to make blood and stuff for the West, they might do that, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be for the Chinese.
They can't afford to be completely sanitized. The more success they find outside of China, the more likely these studios are to push back against censorship, or at the very least, create separate versions for those games to appeal to broader audiences. And this is what makes the future of Chinese gaming so fascinating to me, because as their industry grows internationally, the pressure to loosen creative restrictions is only going to increase. Right now, China's biggest weakness in this market is its own government-imposed limitations on creative expression. If their developers want to compete at the highest level...
But at the same time, their limitations by the government might also be something that has helped them, because they're not allowed to do this wokeness bullshit. They've never been allowed to. Like, there's no room for that. There's no room for politics in the games, nothing. So it might have actually done more good than bad.
Well, they have two choices: either ease censorship to stand alongside Western and Japanese studios, or remain shackled by their government oversight, preventing them from ever reaching their full potential. For all the concerns about censorship, market influence, and industry shifts, there's something undeniably exciting about what's happening. Gaming is evolving in a way that we never could have predicted, and at the center of it all, well, we're witnessing a genuine cultural shift. One that could reshape not only the industry, but the way that people from vastly different backgrounds engage with one another. People love to dismiss gaming as a pastime, but in reality, it's one of the fastest growing industries in the world. They're going to be able to make games faster, cheaper. We're probably going to get games cheaper because they're going to flood the market. If these games are good.
No. Everyone knows. Sorry, my shoulders really hurt. Everyone knows that prices never go down. It's just how it is. That's just how it works. And when it comes to products, digital products, like games, the fixed prices never change unless it's up.
That's even better, because if they're flooding the market with good games, what ends up happening is, well, supply goes up, demand is down. The prices are going to have to come down to meet the demand. We're going to see less microtransactions or cheaper microtransactions. I would hope. We're going to see game prices fall a little bit. We're going to see
game prices would fall, but it would not be permanently. It would be like more sales instead, because they're going to resist changing the fixed price. Anyways, microtransactions might actually go down, which is a big W.
Some of these studios tighten their budgets, tighten their britches a little bit, and actually start spending money the right way on some of these games. There's a lot of good that can come from this. And the crazy thing is that we're only seeing the first wave of some of these games. They just announced the Tides of Annihilation. I wrote that one down. That just came out of nowhere. And I think we're probably going to see more of those come out this year, more of those random announcements. Oh, hey, by the way, here's another game that looks wild out of nowhere with top tier quality. What is this? How does this even happen? And the next year is probably going to be even crazier. I'm blown away by it.
For sure.
Look at the sheer volume of Eastern games that just came out of nowhere last year, and then now they're doing it again this year, and they're probably going to multiply it by next year. I wouldn't doubt it. Especially because they've seen how much money...
Bro, this year is going to be wild. It's already wild. And next year...
these games can make. Black Myth Wukong brought in a ton of money. Ton. Marvel Rivals is making a boatload of cash.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, the gotcha games that they have over there, MiHoYo's making a ton of money as well. So they see the opportunity in it. They're going to invest in it. And by extension, we're just going to get more games and likely better games because they're going to see, oh, well, games of this scale, games of this quality are what actually, sell. So that's what we're going to go ahead and make. Oh, the players like this thing, we're going to go make that. This kind of loops me back to this video that I'm planning on doing relatively soon about copycat games, where you're seeing some of these studios take premises or games that, well, other studios have that they have not done a very good job with, or they haven't handled its success very well. Overwatch being a really good example of that. I also think that Light of Motrium game is probably going to be relatively disruptive. What if, just a what if scenario, the game that, Horizon's tried to come out so many times that it always ends up not doing very well, mostly because it always ends up dropping in the window of some major release right next to it or whatever it might be. I also just don't
it doesn't
think
matter.
people are really
It doesn't matter. People just don't like Horizon.
all that interested in Horizon.
Yeah.
I don't really know why. I think the premise is really cool. Maybe it's just
Reason why is because it's just, guys, do not hate me for this. Horizon is not a good game. It's not a good game. It's mediocre. It's a 6 out of 10. That's why. It's been hyped to fucking oblivion, making these companies and reviewers and journalists think that it's like this new best thing. That's why it does bad. Because the people that are actually buying the games, the customers, they never asked. Nobody asked for a remake. Nobody asked for Lego Horizon. That's why.
it's the character. Maybe it's PlayStation. I don't know what it is.
And yes, I've played Horizon, by the way. I played Horizon, and it was so painfully boring. I'm sorry, it was.
Like the players that like it, but on a broader scale, for a broader audience, the vast majority of people just aren't interested in that IP at all. But then you have this Light of Motrium. Same premise. Just throw in some Elden Ring-esque fighting mechanics and things like that. Throw in some mounts and whatnot. The players are going to eat it up.
Yeah.
There's something to that. We'll be talking about that soon. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel.
It's a good video. I'm already subscribed, but I'm going to like the video. Let's see the comments. Western companies should get comfortable with the idea of people not buying their games. This is what I love about gamers. This is why gamers are so strong. We never forget. Never. Gamers are not leaving Western games for Eastern games. Gamers are just not buying bad games. Yeah, that's true. That's what I said. Eastern studios adhere to simple concept. Happy players, higher profits. I mean, yeah, no bullshit, no politics. Lesson 1, sex sells. That's what I said. Lesson 2, know your audience. That's what I said. Lesson 3, gameplay. That's what I said. I saw a meme just yesterday with a screenshot of an attractive character in Stellar Blade and the caption read, "You can tell this is an Asian game studio because she's not ugly." Yeah, it's kind of sad that is the state that it is in right now. This is the reality right now. But not for long. Not for long. Western game developers have loudly and proudly told gamers that their games are not for us and we shouldn't buy them because we are bigoted. We agreed to their terms, and they are paying the price of alienating the majority of their customer base. I'm more than happy to buy games from South Korea, Japan, and China instead of my home country. Somebody calls you a bigot, you don't care. You're just gonna distance yourself. This is not how you get customers. I'm thirsting for that sounded really weird. But I really am thirsting for games right now. I am super picky, but I am really excited. What do you guys think? Are you excited as well for 2025 gaming? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and want more, then please like and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Goodbye.